Hello everybody, Andrew Blake from the digitalaudiomanual.com. Today let's talk about some of these updated import options for tracks in Cubase 13. So we have some very smart new options when it comes to importing tracks, but in order to import tracks or even a single track, first you have to have tracks to import. So let's back up some tracks to start with. I'm going to go over to my project and I have 6 or 7 tracks here. I'm going to export them into an archived file. Now one thing you want to be aware of, you can back up these tracks any way you want in terms of what's on those tracks, but when the tracks are backed up, data also recalls the actual position in your project, and that's kind of important because when you go to import them, if you want to have control over where they come into your project, you're going to want to think of a couple things. Again, if it doesn't matter, just back them up as they are. But as you're going to see in a minute, let's say when I import my tracks, I want them to go to wherever the cursor is. So let's say in my new project, my cursor is way over here at measure 49. If I back up these tracks right now, just like they are, they're actually starting at measure 25. So when I go to my new project, I put my cursor over here at say 49. When the tracks are imported, it's going to include all these extra measures, even though my cursor's right here. And these tracks are going to get imported way down the line somewhere. So if it's important to you to have that kind of control, start if at all possible by selecting all your events and dragging them right to measure 1. That way when they come into your new project, won't be a whole bunch of dead space in front of your events, especially if you're trying to line them up to a cursor, like I'm going to show you in these examples. So I have my events all lined up where I want them. Go ahead and select all my tracks. I'm going up to File, and I'm going to come down to Export. I'm going to choose Selected Tracks. To keep it on the option that says Copy the Media Files, say OK. And anytime you do an export, you have to put them into an empty folder. So you're going to want to create a new folder, give it a name, hit enter, take the option that says select folder. And then it does this backup where it starts moving all those tracks into that folder. Now, here's where the new stuff begins. So I'm in my new project and I want to import some tracks. I'm going to put my cursor at the end of these events. I'm going to go up to File, come down to Import. I'm going to choose the option that says Track Archive. I'm going to look for that track archive that I just created, double click on it. Here's the dialog we want to start looking at. Now we had this dialog previously, but we have a lot of new options in here we didn't have before, and some of them are very intelligent options to have. The first thing you'll notice is that it lists everything that's in the track archive that you created. And because I saved about 8 different tracks, I have a list of 8 different tracks here. I can expand and collapse this, and I can do it up here on this menu that says expand or collapse. I can pick out individual tracks that I want out of this group, or I can hit the checkbox for all of them. And again, I can hit up here on top options that will select all or deselect all. I want to add all my tracks, so I'm going to say select all. Here's some of the things that are pretty different. If I come over here on the right, I have some options in terms of how it's going to get imported. The first option says the track data to be imported, events and parts. I want to make sure that's checked. I'm going to come down to this first drop-down list, and this is going to tell me what's going to happen to my existing tracks when I do this import. Do I want to replace all the events, or do I want to add the events, or do I want to create new track versions? I want to show you this option that says Add Events and Parts first. So I'm going to choose that. I'm going down to the import position, and then I have choices here that say absolute position, relative position, or the cursor position. Now this goes back to what I was saying, because I want to be able to bring things in at the cursor position. I'm going to choose that. Now at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and import all these tracks. I'm going to hit OK. And when it finishes, I have my existing events, but if I look on the other side of the cursor and I scroll down a little bit, I can see that it added the same events again for me, but it created brand new tracks. This is great, and maybe this is what I want, but maybe this isn't what I want. Maybe what I wish would have happened is to have all these tracks that I just have imported, because they were the same as these tracks, have them be imported right into the same tracks where they came from, at the new cursor position. And we can do that. I'm going to Control Z out of this. I'm going to go back to my file, come down to Import, to my track archive, pick the archive. I'm going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to say select all of them. But now here's one of the great options. As I look at all my source files, right next to them on the right, I have the option to choose the destination track. And for example, because I have a track of crash cymbals, I can choose to bring that right into the existing tracks that have the crash cymbals. And I can go through all these, pick them and match them any way I want. But I also have this great option up here at the top that says select the matching. And this will automatically look at anything that has the same name as the original name, and it will fill in these tracks over here automatically for me. So I'm going to hit select matching. All the tracks have been filled in correctly with one button push. I come down, I hit OK. Now everything has been added in the exact same tracks that they should have been, saving me a lot of work and allowing me to move on with my song. Now we're going to challenge it a little bit and watch what happens when we do this option. I'm going to Control Z out of here. Let's say I have my tracks that I've backed up, but now I want to rearrange the order a little bit. I'm going to take this track and move it up here. I'm going to take these tracks and move them down here. Maybe I'll take one more track and move it all the way up to the top. So everything is completely in a different order now. Who knows, as I've gone along the project, I decided things needed to be a different way. So now I want to import my new tracks. And I go back to my file. I come down to my import. Same steps so far. Open up my track archive. Select all my tracks. But now here's the problem. If I just take them like they are and move them straight over, for example, I have crash cymbals and uplifter sounds and all those things. If I bring a crash cymbal in now like it was, it's going to go into an uplifter lane, and the uplifter is going to go into a reverse cymbal, because I moved all these tracks all over the place, and it's a total mismatch from what it was. No big deal, because when I come back down and say select matching, just like I did before, it automatically knows how to change the order. So when the crash cymbal got moved to the bottom, it knew to go to the destination and move that one to the bottom as well. Just a fantastic design they did on this. So when I hit OK now, again, my tracks got added right at the cursor. But not only did they get added right at the cursor, they automatically got rearranged to match the tracks that they belong in. And if I move these around again, the same thing would happen. This is a tremendous update in terms of being able to bring tracks in and keep the workflow going in your project. Hey, my friend, it's Andrew here, and I want to ask you, are you looking to increase your level of understanding and expertise with programs like Cubase, Wavelab, and other music software? As you're listening to others teach you, you think the information is good, but you feel like you're not understanding things exactly the way you would like to? Presenting the all-new Digital Audio Manual Preferred. This is a series of videos that will help move you along the path from wherever you are now to a higher level of knowledge and understanding. The whole concept is based on taking the vast majority of information that's available in the manuals of some of your favorite programs like Cubase or Wavelab or many others that are in the works, and then presents them to you in a fresh new way. All these videos are laid out like the manual, the subjects are titled like the manual, the information is searchable like the manual, all with one gigantic difference. Everything is demonstrated in real-time situations. It gives you examples and processes to learn and use all the information. And you're going to see, just like so many have done already, it's literally a treasure chest of hidden and rarely explained features and functions, all leading you step by step from the beginning to end, empowering you with a new language set in the programs you may have already been using for years, or even if you're just getting started. So if this sounds interesting to you, come and be part of a clear path to a better way to learn. Click on the link below to get access, and I will see you on the inside. All right, let's get back to our discussion. Another interesting option that this allows us to do, if my tracks have lanes, for example, if I go to this track and expand the lanes, and let's say I choose this lane here for the sound I want, then I go to this track and choose this lane for the sound I want. Now I put my cursor at the end of all these events, and when I come back and say File, Import, my track archive, I say select them all, select the matching to make sure they all go on the right tracks. I come over to the On Import of Existing Tracks. I tell it to add events and parts, hit OK. I get my new parts and events at the cursor, and if I expand the lanes, it remembered the existing selection that I made, but then on the new lanes that it put in the original selection. This allows me to make selection after selection, but choose different lanes at each selection. All right, so let's examine some of these import options in detail. I've removed all the tracks, going to File, Import, and then Track Archive. Select my archive. I'm going to select all the tracks. I'm going to come over and hit Select Matching, but nothing happens because I've removed all the original tracks. Over in this area, I'm going to say Replace the events and parts. So basically everything is coming in new, and I'm going to put it at the cursor position. I hit OK. And just as expected, my parts and events arrive right at the cursor position, and it creates the tracks necessary. If I did this again with the Replace option, it would simply overwrite all of these tracks. But let's look at these other options. If I go back to File, Import, Track Archive, make all my selections. This time I'm going to hit the Select Matching, and now it knows what tracks to put it in. Over in this area, instead of Replace, I'm going to the next option that says Add Events and Parts. Again, I'll leave it at the cursor, and I hit OK. And initially, it looks like nothing happened. Everything's identical to what it was. But in reality, it put a new copy right over top of the old copy. I go to any one of my events and click on it and move it. I can see that there's another event right below it. If I move that, then there's nothing else there. You can also access these stacked up events at a little down arrow at the bottom of each event. You click on that, it shows you what the two events are. You could just choose one or the other. Notice over in the left area in the inspector, I have the track version tab selected. Right now it only shows one version. We have a third option here. If I go back up to the file, to the import and the track archive, select my archive, select all, select matching. But this time, on the right, I'm going to take the option that says create a new track version. Select that, leave the cursor position, say OK. And now for each track event, if I click on it and I look over at the version tab, now there's two versions and I can select either one, and it's done that for every track. Then you have another option where you can import the range. This presumes that you remember where the original location of your events were. My original events, like recommended, were at measure 1. So if I go up and make a range selection at measure 1, I can use locators. I'll go from measure 1 to measure 2. I'll leave my cursor out here. If I go back to File and Import Track Archive, select all, select matching. I'm going to leave this at Add Events and Parts. But now I'm going to come down and check this option that says Range. I'm going to tell it to use the locators. I could also physically type in the numbers if I wanted to. And then when I hit OK, at the cursor position, I got the original first bar of all my events. You can choose to have the channel and the inspector settings and the automation, or you can turn those off. If you don't do the select matching option, you can choose to import below a selected track or choose at the bottom of a track list. You also get a reading of what you're importing and then the project that you're importing to. This is important because you can see the sample rate, and if there's a mismatched sample rate, then your audio files will play differently. And then ultimately you can copy your files to your active project folder. So all in all, this gives us a wide range of sophisticated options when it comes to backing up our tracks and then re-importing them into our projects. All right, it's going to wrap it up for today. As always, if you haven't already, click the link below this video to learn how you can get access to the all-new Digital Audio Manual Preferred. It's the clear, step-by-step solution showing you not only the tips, but all the secret and typically never talked about features that'll take you to a higher level of using your software. If you've been searching for an all-in-one solution to take you from start to finish and learning Cubase and Wavelab and other music software, this is exactly what you've been looking for. So click on the link below and come and be part of the clear path to a better learning experience. So today we talked about the import options dialog for tracks in Cubase 13. We went through the basic importing options and some of the tips. We saw our choices with selecting tracks and their destinations. And then we went through some specific examples, seeing what happens when we replace or add the tracks or use different track versions, as well as all the other options that are listed there. And we will continue to explore all these different features and functions with Cubase. As always, it's great to have you guys here, and I'll see you on the next video.